Welcome to the podcast. Today in this episode, we have Caleb Love. Now, he's a local Gold Coast paramedic who came into the studio. And not only is he a paramedic, he is a passionate trainer and the founding entrepreneurial owner of Mr. Paramedic. Now, this is a company that runs throughout Australia and actually partners with Australian Paramedical College to take on students for placements.
Yeah. Speaking of which, he tells a pretty hard to believe story, comical and frightening at the same time, about one of these placement experiences that happened in Victoria pre-COVID, which is definitely worth the price of admission today, Tim.
Definitely.
And also, I mean, Caleb is just, for me as a first aid trainer and somebody who loves to inspire people about these life-saving skills, of not only first aid, but, emergency response. So his shows that his care about his role and what he's on about has led him into so many different areas, both from training to supplies to training up, obviously, new students. And Caleb is just giving value into not only communities, but this industry, using that entrepreneurial spirit, not having any business training, which is just inspiring. And it also shows that there isn't just one career here for those people who have a passion for paramedics, emergency healthcare. There isn't just one lifestyle. Caleb shows that you can diversify, you can train and use your passion in so many different areas in this industry. So it's a very inspiring talk with Caleb, and we can't wait to bring you this interview.
Yeah, so let's go to our interview with Caleb Love.
So it's a real life case where I attended and it was an overdose, and there was a young person on the scene. Now, after that job, it was very emotional and things like this, and I just had a bit of a think, and how could that have been prevented if it could have been prevented? And that's where the idea behind these incursions come from. So we teach kids as young as 2 years old how to recognise an emergency, how to get an ambulance to them. So we have pretend iPhones and they call 000. And we do it in a very fun and interactive way with a big teddy bear called Pablo, the paramedic. So yeah, they get a lot out of it, the kids, even if it's the basics of turning each other over into the recovery position. So even that is better than doing nothing.
Well, Caleb, thanks so much for coming into the studio. Thanks for coming on the Changing Lives podcast.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Tim, and Ben. I'm very excited and honoured to be chatting with you guys today.
Yeah, that's great. I didn't know whether to call you Caleb or Mr. Paramedic, and we'll get into that. But you are a paramedic. You're also a trainer, entrepreneur, and a family man. All of those things really, from the short time I've known you, have really kind of come through. And I think it'd be really great to kind of hit on a lot of those aspects of who you are and the great work that you're doing here on the Gold Coast. It's great to have a local Gold Coast person. And the funny thing is as I drive to work in the studio, I actually drive past one of your Mr. Paramedic ambulances on the side of the road. So I kind of...
Yep, we're neighbours.
Yeah, we are. We're neighbours.
Yep.
It's great to have you in, and you've been pretty busy of late.
Yeah.
You have a young family, and in fact, just in the last month, you've had a new addition.
Yes, that's right. Got a 1 month old. Atticus is his name. So he's the youngest now of three. I've got three young boys. So Rafferty is 6, Emerson's 4, and Atticus is 1 month old.
Well done, mate. You remembered all the names. It's great.
That took a little bit of remembering there. But
it's a bit early in the morning.
Yeah. But very exciting times in the Love family.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Well, thanks I know it sounds like you're really busy, so to be able to come on in here and give us some of that time, we appreciate it. I'd love to just kind of talk about really from the get-go where it all began for you. you pretty young on, you were pretty keen
Yeah.
to pursue a paramedic career. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, for sure. I back in year 11, year 12, I had a real enjoyment out of studying biology, and was really interested in the body. So it just really fascinated me what the body can do and how it can adapt. Certain things happen, like if it gets a bite or a sting, and sort of how the body does what it does. And yeah, I got a really good marks in biology. I wasn't an academic. I found it hard to focus, which is why being a paramedic is actually very suitable for me, because I do have a lot of variety in my job. But yeah, back in year 11 and 12, I really wanted to be a paramedic back then. My careers advisor was a small country town in Victoria, and they advised that I was too young, essentially. So too young to go straight into that sort of career without having life experience. So they recommended that I do nursing. Nursing wasn't something that I wanted to do at the time. But essentially had a chat with my mum and everything like that, and a few other people, and they just said it would be a good sort of base to sort of, a good foundation, essentially. So went into doing nursing. I was not a big fan of nursing, and still, whilst I was doing those duties, would look out the window on the ward and look at the paramedics coming in and be like, I just want to be there. I just want to do that job. And then luckily in Victoria there was a degree that I could transfer over to. So it was called Nursing Pathway to Paramedics. And it was a 1-year conversion course, and it was only for registered nurses, and it allowed me to do 1 year of back at uni, and then able to essentially have two degrees that way. And then I started my career as a paramedic in 2010 at a country town called Kyneton.
Wow.
Okay. And you mentioned that you had this desire to be a paramedic. What do you think it was about you as a teenage boy that wanted to?
I think it was just, it was not monotonous. So it was different. Every day was different. I still go to work now not knowing what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And that really suits my personality, because, we're not a master of anything we do as paramedics, but we do have to manage a lot of things. Like, for example, we'll be going to people that have fainted, and we've got to work out that particular heart rhythm. And, I'm not a cardiologist, but I'll do my best at that time to try and work out what's going on and get them to hospital. So the variety, and then the next job might be, a pregnancy. So it might be someone in labour. So that variety is what drew me to it, and the fascination with the body as well.
Yeah, okay.
Like, from being told, you're too young and maybe your dreams squelched a little bit there, to finally becoming one, what did it feel like? What was that moment where you got your gig as a paramedic? What was going through your mind?
I was very proud, essentially. At the time, I remember my first day putting on a uniform, and just looking in the mirror and feeling like, this is it. This is where I'm meant to be. And I was keen as mustard. Whatever duties you could tell me to do when I was, in my grad year, I would do them. I'd wash the car 3 times in the day if they wanted me to.
Yeah.
Just wanted to be there and wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah. I mean, such a rewarding job, isn't it? And a career that.
Yeah, and that's another important note thing you bring up there. Like, you can make a difference as well.
Yeah.
So there is lots of jobs out there. This one suits me because I know I can make a difference and make an impact in someone's life at a time when they're quite vulnerable.
Yeah.
Essentially.
What I loved about prepping for this interview and hearing some of your stories were those stories, the impactful stories, which we'll get into.
Yep.
But you've got an interesting pathway in your career now. You're an entrepreneur as well, and you've built in the skills of having a love for paramedicine and your experience in paramedicine. into the business world as well.
Yes.
And training first aid and emergency, obviously, and as Mr. Paramedic.
Yep.
What was it that sparked that?
So I remember in my grad year, my wife did a first aid course in Victoria, and I was so keen that night to have a chat with her and see what she learnt. And so we had a long chat. I was asking her questions, some technical questions like, what's VF or ventricular fibrillation? And she was like, I don't know. And I was like, are you sure? And then I'd ask her a couple of other questions here and there.
You did go to the first aid course,
yeah,
right?
I was like, you did attend, didn't you? And she said, yeah. She was like, oh, they just sort of, I don't remember and stuff. So I was filling in the blanks for her. And she told me, oh, you're pretty good at sort of explaining things and stuff like that. And I do get a lot of enjoyment out of it as well, because I find the body very fascinating. Didn't think much of it from there until we moved up to North Queensland. And then there was an opportunity that came up there where my sister runs 2 swim schools, and she asked me to train her staff. And that's essentially where Mr. Paramedic was born.
Wow.
Now I do get a lot of beef from a lot of people, a lot of other fellow paramedics about the name Mr. Paramedic. So Mr. Paramedic is an entity; it's not a person. So it's not me.
It's not you.
And but yeah, people that want to get under my skin, mates and things like that, will call me Mr. Paramedic.
Yeah.
So I'll just run with it, and whatever they want to say.
It strikes me you've got a number of like showbiz names. I mean, Caleb Love is like, I don't know if you designed that one.
Yeah.
You've changed your name, haven't you? Because that's perfect for showbiz.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, there's a funny story with my last name. So I'm the youngest of eight kids.
Yeah, wow.
And my mum, obviously, she apparently I was the only one born early in the morning. So there's a theory there that mum held on till midnight. I think I was born at 1 a.m. So there's a theory that mum held on till midnight just so I could be born on Valentine's Day. So I was actually born on Valentine's Day.
No.
My last name's Love.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, copped a lot of beef for that one as well when I was growing up. But
Right.
yeah, that's true.
You're destined to be a heartthrob, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A heartbreaker, maybe.
Real life Cupid, yeah.
Heartbreaker.
Well,
sorry for that
but the
segue.
kind of personality that
diversion.
you are, though, I mean, you have to share your birthday with, making sure your wife feels pretty special too, right?
No, we celebrate that on the 15th.
Ah, there you go. Good job.
Classic.
Hey, actually, we celebrate Valentine's Day on the 10th. It's kind of like a rebellious thing. I like to not do it on the 14th too with everybody else. That's because that was the day we got engaged. So
Very good.
close enough to
Okay,
it.
well, I
So
feel a little
there
left
you go.
out.
There you
I
go,
actually
mate.
celebrate Valentine's with everyone else on the planet.
Don't conform, Ben.
Yeah, well,
Make up a reason why not to, I guess.
first aid courses. That and your wife going, not really learning anything. That was that kind of, and her then obviously sitting with you, talking through, and I'm a first aid trainer. I ran a business in Brisbane, and soon realised that if I was going to get people to actually remember the fundamentals and the basics and have a good time doing it, then I needed to make some good quality resources and media up that was both engaging but informing.
Yep.
And design the learning environment to be such as well.
Yep.
So I totally know these are skills, right? These are
Yeah.
life skills
Yep.
that everyone should know. And we're talking about training people for an emergency situation. There's nothing more exciting
Yeah.
than that. But when you go to a first aid course, it's not often what you get.
Yeah, and that's exactly the where Mr. Paramedic essentially did come from, was because obviously it was my sister that asked me to train her staff.
Yeah.
She obviously had seen that I was quite passionate about what I did, and had seen me previously, how I talk with people and things like that. And yeah, it derives from that passion. So if a trainer and assessor, there is lots of them around. Some have been doing it for a long time and maybe, are not sort of into it as much as what they used to have been. So the idea with Mr. Paramedic is that you're going to be trained by a current paramedic. So, and like we're probably going to bring up today, a lot of people enjoy certain stories of tying that in real life experiences of certain jobs where first aid can come in handy and it can actually be life-saving. So I've seen firsthand with people that do CPR and do with the correct technique and timing, and or even use a defibrillator nice and early. Like as soon as you've used a defibrillator early, you've automatically given that person that casualty an improved chance of surviving.
Yep.
So that's essentially where it comes back from the passion side of things.
And you mentioned too that you grew up with one of 8 children. You were one of 8 kids, and family is really important to you. And even in launching your own business and realizing not only a need, but it also provided you an opportunity to kind of be around your family as well. And you're continuing to work as a casual paramedic as well to stay in the game. I mean, can you talk us through how that really works with you as well?
So it's essentially about, I've created a lifestyle that suits my family. So we chose to live here on the Gold Coast. So we don't have any networks here. I call the Gold Coast God's country, essentially. Burleigh especially is an amazing spot. Just go down to the Point if you've never seen it before. It's amazing down there. But so lifestyle wise, I'm able to work as a paramedic to keep my skills up, because now we're registered with APRA. We need to do a certain amount of hours to keep your skills up. So I do many hours there to ensure my currency, and because I still really love the job. Still really rewarding. It's a really rewarding job. And then the lifestyle wise, I'm very involved with my kids' lives. So I'm able to do school drop-offs, school pickups, and then do business during the middle of the day, take phone calls and return emails. And we do remote training now. So we send mannequins and things to sites, and then we can, because of what's happened with current circumstances with restrictions and things, we're able to do remote training that way. So
fantastic! Over video
stream, So like over Zoom. So that's an example of how it sort of is able to suit my lifestyle.
Wow, and because how important it is, to be in your kids' lives. You were saying it was just you saw your dad working so hard, and you're just inspired to kind of be able to be more available.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So my dad had a very strong work ethic. Yeah. So he worked very, very hard. He would have had to work hard because he obviously got 8 mouths to feed. Don't know if we'd be able to do that now, but yeah, I get that from him, I believe. But it's about also realising being around in your kids' lives as well, and being present so it's about having both, essentially. So I actually get my boys involved with some aspects of Mr. Paramedic. So they're actually, we've done a recent video with the Student Saves Lives incursions that we run, and they've been in the classroom, and they're the ones that have done the demonstrations.
How good's that?
We've also got a video, like a YouTube page, and my boys are the actors in that. So they've emulated having an asthma attack or an anaphylactic attack, or they've fallen off the roof and have got a head injury and are seizing on the ground. So all these sorts of things, we did that together.
How fun.
I use that as a learning sort of moment for them as well, because they were always asking me, Dad, I want some Lego, or I want this and that. So I've used that where they can actually work, and then at the end of that acting day, they got some money to go to the shop and they got their Lego. So that was sort of, I've tied that in with work, essentially. And yeah, the videos came out very well. And a lot of people that, looking at the courses and things like that, get a lot of enjoyment out of watching a little 4-year-old, pretending to have a seizure.
Mate, little paramedics in the making you got there.
Yeah. I don't know. They do have a choice.
All movie stars.
Yeah.
One or the other, right?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
That's really good. Now you mentioned the safety, child safety, the kid safety.
Student Save Lives incursions.
Yeah. Where did that come from? Because it's something you've kind of launched. Because Mr. Paramedic, right, as a business, is not just you're not just in training courses. You're providing equipment, you mentioned, and these innovative kind of courses.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of a sad story where these incursions were generated from. So it's a real life case where I attended, and it was an overdose, and there was a young person on the scene. Now, after that job, it was very emotional and things like this, and I just had a bit of a think, and how could that have been prevented if it could have been prevented? And that's where the idea behind these incursions come from. So we teach kids as young as 2 years old how to recognise an emergency, how to get an ambulance to them. So we have pretend iPhones and they call 000. And we do it in a very fun and interactive way with a big teddy bear called Pablo, the paramedic. So, yeah, they get a lot out of it, the kids, even if it's the basics of turning each other over into the recovery position. So even that is better than doing nothing. All right.
Absolutely. So what age are these students?
So as young as 2 and
Wow.
And up to grade 6 is the main age groups that we facilitate.
Mate, that's just hearing you. I like so much synergy with where I wanted to go with my business as well. The teaching, we had these with Heartbeat Heroes, little 1 hour programs that we used to go into primary schools to teach. And it just strikes me that, and what I love about that is that these basics, real basics, turning someone over when mum or dad or a friend can't be woken up, turning one on their side. This is stuff that kids, as young as, toddlers or whatever, can actually learn to do, that can be life-saving, calling 000.
Yeah.
This is not hard stuff.
Yeah.
Some adults don't know that stuff because it wasn't trained.
Yeah, that's right. I've seen adults not know how to put people in the recovery position.
No.
And might be updating their first aid certificate for the last 10 years. And
Yes.
I'll get surprised.
Yeah. And not know why. Not know what why are we doing the stuff that we're doing. And that's just so great that you're cementing that life-saving knowledge to kids. Wow, as young as 2.
Yeah. It's incredible to watch them as well. And they get really involved, and they have a lot of fun. So,
What's really cool about what you're doing too, Caleb, is that you didn't have any business training.
Not at all. Not at all.
So, and what the innovations that you're talking about are just things that you've come up with to go, how can I bring my passion and make, it sounds cheesy, but make the world a better place. Where can I grow this thing so that what I want to do, teach people those life-saving skills, where are the holes here, and you've gone, hey, I need a kids course. Kids need to learn this stuff. I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
We often think about this entrepreneurial thing as like, these guys that are, trained in business and business high flyers, but really it's just people with a passion that are getting out there and doing what they do. And it's awesome to think too about, students and people maybe wanting to go into this industry, that they have something to bring, and you don't have to be a business person to actually, start and bring variety into your career, training and stuff like that, particularly if you've got that passion, because it needs, and you're a teacher. I mean, there's another skill being a teacher, and like you said, your wife identified for you that you were able to communicate things in a really simple way, which is so important, to speak the language of your students. But there's variety in this industry, and if it's your passion, you can find a way. It's not like this one stream of I'm going to be a state paramedic and that's it, and we're all competing for this one job.
That's right. There's many streams and lots of different things that students that want to be paramedics or diploma of paramedicine, there's lots of different avenues of where they can go with their skills. So they're learning life skills. So life skills that all of us should know, essentially. So if it's not training, They can do events as well. So that's another branch that we offer is we go do lots of events from Cairns down to Melbourne. So we've had lots of students come through from the paramedical college and do their time. But you're right. A lot of the Mr. Paramedic started off with just a training branch only, and then over time, and essentially it was from inquiries. So it would be a client that would do training with us, have a really good experience. They would come back and say, now we're looking at getting defibrillators. Do you recommend a defibrillator? And so, that sort of comes into now, okay, well, let's look at a branch of selling certain items. So we don't have a lot of items we sell, but ones we do sell is the ones that that we do promote. We think they're the better ones. And then from life experiences from cases is where the student saves lives came from. There's another initiative we offer called Every Minute Matters, and that was again from a real life case that came up from doing a cardiac arrest on a golf course, and that golf course didn't have a defibrillator. So from that, this was in North Queensland. So from that, after that job, so that wasn't a positive outcome for that particular case. And then I had a chat, down the track regarding why they didn't have a defibrillator. You would think that a golf course, with the people and the clientele that go to a golf course, it should be mandatory. And having discussions with the owner there, he just said we don't have the funds to purchase one. So the idea came up with Every Minute Matters, and so it's an initiative to get defibrillators in schools and large businesses that otherwise couldn't afford it. And because they didn't have the funds, essentially I'm an avid golfer, so I got a couple of golf memberships and they got a defibrillator. So then that golf course spoke to the other 2 golf courses up there, because there's only 3 in that area. And that worked out that I could did a charity day at another course. So we've got a chosen charity called the Golden Octopus Foundation, which looks after kids with cancer. And the 8 arms are all the different types of cancer that commonly affect children. So we did a charity golf day at one of the golf courses for the Golden Octopus Foundation and raised $1,500 for that foundation. And that golf course got a defibrillator. And then so essentially, with aspects of what we do at Mr. Paramedic, or what I do at Mr. Paramedic, it was derived from the client and from cases like that. And essentially a motto I tell my boys, where there's a will, there's a way. And if you can try and make it happen. So now if there is a cardiac arrest on any of those courses, they've all got defibrillators.
Wow. And I can imagine an older clientele that might frequent a golf course. Probably it's even more important that that's
high risk.
It does happen, In my career, 3 times of 3 or 4 times that has that I've experienced it, but that I've heard about cardiac arrests on golf courses. So it can be common. People get pretty upbeat, I suppose, on a course. They hit the wrong shot. Hit the wrong shot. It goes in the bushes. You throw your club and all that sort of stuff.
The heart rate goes up. The frustration levels.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, what I hear coming through obviously is this passion, but also even from the business side of things, there's this challenge you love, to kind of land a client or really kind of put that passionate part of you to work as well. And I think of the many students or people that think it's just there's only one kind of outcome of doing a diploma of paramedicine, and it's to be a paramedic. But if you've even got that entrepreneurial edge or that business kind of passion edge, you can put it to use.
And anything's possible. As we were talking about before, if you've got a passion for that industry, you can make things happen.
You mentioned before that you take on APC students, the paramedical college students doing the diploma, or maybe Cert 4 in healthcare. And so I want to just talk about that. But also, when we were talking, you had a story about when you started as a paramedic,
Yeah.
what it felt like, you hadn't done a resus before, and you felt like you weren't like legit part of the team.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's one of a cardiac arrest is one of those jobs as a paramedic. Obviously, it's one of the main things you probably think of. As we chatted yesterday about, Tim, like a paramedic right now is a bit of an in job sort of thing. It's a lot of there's TV shows about being a paramedic and things and all those sorts of things. But so at the time when I was a grad, I was probably in 3 or 4 months in, and I still hadn't done a cardiac arrest. I'd met some other colleagues that were 5 years in and hadn't done a cardiac arrest, and I really was itching just to do one, just so I knew that what I could do, on a real life person rather than a mannequin. So I remember it vividly because it was actually on my birthday, this particular job. But yeah, it was
Valentine's Day, that is.
yeah. So it was in a country.
Oh, wait, that's even like heart stop, Valentine.
Yeah, could you imagine?
It's aligned. The planet's aligned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah, that's all right. So it was in a country town. Their population was probably similar to like Mount Tambourine, or a few thousand people in town essentially. And yeah, the job came in, and I was like, oh, here we go. I was very nervous, obviously, if not doing one in real life before on a person, but I had a really good mentor at the time, and he would just advise me on the way just to do the basics. So the basics are really important. So our response time was 3 or 4 minutes.
Wow.
This person owned a few factories and things, and so the person that was giving him, he was there chatting with one of the factories people, that like the managers, and it was witnessed. So it was witnessed by that person. That person started CPR on this gentleman. We arrived within 3 or 4 minutes. And that person had about 22 shocks, essentially, was clinically dead for about an hour.
From the on-site?
From the on-site, yeah, from us.
From you guys,
from the responding.
They didn't have a defibrillator there?
They didn't have one, no. But we were quite quick with the response time, within 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So he was clinically dead for an hour. He came to, we got ROSC in the end. He was taken to a metropolitan hospital and discharged 2 weeks later with an internal pacemaker and defibrillator. Now, he's going to have another, 20, 30 years left of his life because of that person starting CPR, that bystander. So seeing real life jobs of how these things can impact, it is quite important that people do have the right training. I know there's a lay rescuers that are doing their training because they need to do it for their workplace. But if they know, like you were saying, if they know why they're doing it, it often helps them as well do the skill appropriately as well.
That's huge. Yeah, and that's exciting to be able to be a part of the training and education. And I think a lot of people going into this career will be interested in that as well, just with the passion and knowing that there's these real fundamental, simple skills that can make a massive impact in people's lives, save lives, change families. That's awesome. And so, how did that feel like?
Oh, that felt amazing. And I was on a high once I found out the result. The person that did the bystander that started the CPR was also, he was elated as well, but of the result, because we all know that the statistics aren't that good if you do go into a cardiac arrest out of a hospital.
Yeah, you're clinically dead, right?
Yeah. So and the chances are quite low that they're going to come back. So he was very lucky that someone saw it essentially. And then it was my stats straight away after that. I think it was 2 days later that we did another job, and that wasn't a good outcome. Yeah. So I had the highs and the lows pretty much of what can happen, and then also thinking managing that side of things as well, like mentally, like we don't go around saving everyone. This does happen, and yeah, we're all doing life. And if you're passionate about something, then do it. Because you don't know how long you're going to be here, and if you're contemplating, doing some studies, and don't think you're ready or smart enough or anything like that, don't let that hold you back. Just you don't know unless you have a go. So we're only here once.
Yeah. Inspiring, and just to save one person's life, like you said, that, I mean, it's worth it all just for that, in one sense, isn't it, really? When you realize how much of a difference that makes for him, his family. And it, as we've really enjoyed the partnership. We have, obviously, Lucy, who handles the placement in APC for the students that come through, and we've had a couple of students come through, and that passion to pass on your knowledge, to give them the opportunities to, hey, this is kind of really that first taste that a student gets,
of the real thing.
The real thing. They've been in workshops, and they've, and the great thing is you can be studying and you can still volunteer in many different places to get experience, because that, having the experience and just being in the situation, nothing can replace that.
That's right. You're totally right, Tim. We've had a lot of paramedical students come through, and they've all been fantastic, all very eager to get involved, and essentially put those skills that they've learned into practice. And one of the key elements to doing when they do events is history taking and communication. So that's one of the main things, because they might read a textbook 100 times, but until you actually physically have someone in front of you and need to talk to them about, so they're actually, let's say if they're struggling to breathe, and you actually put that respiratory status assessment or go through that in real life, that's what really helps the students sort of remember it and take it in. So we really enjoy having the students come on board and do their placement hours. We've had some interesting times with some particular. There's one particular.
Can you allude to
job.
any in particular?
Yeah. There's one particular job we flew from Gold Coast down to Victoria, and
pre-COVID.
This was last year, stage last year, and we had a paramedical college student with us. I've asked them if I'm allowed to use their name. They said that's okay, so it was Kerry.
Right. Kerry.
Shout out to Kerry.
And we flew down. It was a 3-day wine and food festival. So it was a great gig, really, because we got fed this gourmet food for 3 days. Like, I've never eaten so well.
Wow.
So, and it was all organic and
the perks.
Oh yeah, it was amazing actually. So Justine loved it too, and there was a lot of wineries around as well. So it was on the hit list was to go to one of the wineries while we were there.
So your wife came along on the
No,
trip?
it's just me and Justine. Purely professional.
You thought about specialising in wine and cheese tasting events,
Yeah,
maybe that's a thing.
Maybe that I can see why. Maybe we'll have to look into that, because that was amazing food that festival. But the event itself, there was no real big cases. There's a few minor things that happened, a few asthma attacks, and a few people that had taken things for the first time and were a bit excited by what had happened to their body, but nothing all that much sort of happened for that 3 days. We were packing up on the last day, and a vehicle that had left came speeding back into us. They'd already left the facility and were coming back in. So it was in paddocks. It was like they were all in tents, and so it was an all outdoor sort of event. And then they had really like a shed with lots of music and stuff that they'd played as beatboxing music, like thump 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 the whole 3 days. So this car came back. It had a smashed rear window and came up to us where we're already sort of packed up our tent and putting all the medical supplies and everything in the truck, and said, "You've got to come quick. Come now. My mate's been hit by a rock." So I had a look at Justine. I said, "What do you reckon we should do here?" And we went and asked the organizer, "Can we go?" I would prefer if we both went. So I asked if we could both go. Yeah, it was offsite. It was a block and a half away. And the organizer, I thought that would have been a really good learning opportunity for Justine. So anyway, we went to the organizer, and he didn't allow us to both go. So we had to make the decision about who would go. So the decision was made that I went, just because I didn't know what it was. So anyway, I went down, I took the truck with me. I hopped out of the car. It was a suburban sort of road. There was all paddocks and things around us, so there's no houses around. I hopped out of the vehicle. There's gunshots going off on the right-hand side.
Wow.
Yeah. So it sounded like a 22, but they're going off, and it sounded very close. So they're going off. I've come around the ambulance.
A gun is a gun to me.
What happened to a rock? What happened to the rocks?
Yeah,
we didn't deal with that.
Yeah. So they're behind. So I hopped out. I've parked on the left-hand side, hopped out and gone around, heard the gunshots, and then I'm staying behind the vehicle for protection. They were about 10 meters away behind a big tree. And I've said, sure that was a rock. Sure that's not a gunshot wound. And then they've brought the casualty over, and he had an entry wound, or only a small wound up here in his arm, like in his humeral sort of region, and he was very pale. So he's laying down now, and at the time, the people there were very on edge. There was 3 other people there, and they were really worried. And I said, "Has the police been called yet, or an ambulance?" And they hadn't called anyone. So so I'm on the phone to call.
Do you know why they didn't call anyone? Or were they?
Because they've panicked.
Yeah.
So I actually had, at that time, I had one of them come up to me while I was on the phone to the ambulance and ask, "Can I smoke a joint?" That's what he asked me whilst
he asked you for it? Like,
yeah,
if you had one?
He asked for permission during that actual time. So anyway, I was like, "You do what you need to do."
I thought maybe he thought there was some stuff in the ambulance.
Yeah. But
Herbals.
that resembled quite, like, I was quite interested to that's how that person took on that moment.
Exactly.
That moment, it was too much, essentially. That's what I took out of that.
Yeah.
It was nothing, no reflection on that person at all. It was just at that moment, this is way too much going on.
That fight, flight, freeze kind of, some people.
That type of thing.
Just react
or
differently,
smoke.
don't we?
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So anyway, I was on the phone to the ambulance, and they won't send an ambulance when so I told them there's active gunshots going off. They said that, no, we're not allowed to, we won't be sending an ambulance. So they send police to make sure the scene's safe, which is the usual sort of, that's usually how it's run. So police came, and the police were there for about a minute, and these gunshots kept going off, and they sounded like they might have been getting closer. So the police officer said, "We've got to get out of here."
Wow.
So I threw him the keys and said, "All right, well, you drive." And we all hopped in the back. And he hightailed out of there a few blocks, and then we met up with an ambulance service and handed over. And then that person was actually, he did have, that person did get the bullet stuck in their lung, so they got flown to a metropolitan hospital to be managed. They're okay now. And yeah, it was just, the whole site then went into lockdown. And then I've switched from that particular job of needing to manage that person back to now trying to get to the airport, and they put the whole place in lockdown. So we had our flights to get back to the coast, and we had things we had on the next day, other things that I needed to get to as well. And so then it was another issue. How do I get into a lockdown area where my student is so we get to the airport? So, and luckily managed to do that. Won't go into details on how that was managed, but where there's a will, there's a way. And that was managed to happen. And then, we just literally, we made the airport with like 5 seconds to spare, probably. So
My goodness.
so
3 days of whining and dining, and then you get
yeah,
all
yeah.
the action.
It was all for that.
All the action in
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
moment as you're packing up.
So you never know what's going to happen at events, and that's what I tell all of the students that come through is complacency. Don't get complacent. Be prepared for anything that might happen. And in my experience, it always is the last case of it's the last casualty of the day. It just always seems to happen that way. So we do
Just when you're ready to
go home and you've been there all day and you were eager, because obviously you start off the morning very eager, like a lot of students as well. They're like, I'm here, I just want to get into this, give me a casualty, I want to use my skills, and then they sit there for a couple of hours.
Vampire-esque.
Yeah. Obviously it comes from a good place. They want to help as well.
Oh, for sure.
And yeah, often it does happen at the end of the day. But yeah, that was a really good learning experience. So I had a great chat regarding that job on the way on the air flight back about, gunshot wounds, how we manage that, what they'll then go on and do in hospital, and all those types of things. So it was a really good learning experience.
Just the decision making that you have to make. You're faced with the decision. Hey, I'm going to have to split up as a team.
Yeah.
And we're going to go this route to, hey, this is a safe environment, and that's primary. It's important. You're not putting yourself and others at risk. All those decisions that you're making, I just think, again, it's you can have all the head knowledge and all of those skills, hard skills, I guess, but the soft skills and these life skills that you're developing, I'm sure you're never off the job then, really, are you? You're always you're using those skills in your life and how
No, you definitely do. And yeah, one of the main things is communication. So I actually think that's one of the main skills for a paramedic is their ability to talk to someone in their way. So, because we're all so diverse as humans. We all have our own sort of way we talk, and as a paramedic, we see lots of different things, lots of different people, and lots of different environments. And it's about trying to do question history taking and talk in the language that the casualty can understand.
Because it's an environment that's high stress. You're diffusing sometimes. I'm sure. I've never been a paramedic. I have attended some emergency scenes myself, and actually done CPR on somebody that had passed out. Until the ambulance came. But there's a lot of stuff happening. People are freaking out. And do you get the phone? Like there's a lot going on, and so those communication skills of being able to be calm and clear,
for
I
sure.
could imagine.
Act like a duck is what I say.
Act like
a duck, yeah. So
you're pedaling.
Yeah, underneath the water there, that's your brain. So they're paddling underneath, but on the surface, you look very calm and like you. So even if you don't know anything, act like a duck, because the worst thing as a medic or as a first aider, looking panicked. If you look panicked, then who else do you think is going to be panicked?
Everyone else.
Oh my God.
Everyone else is going to be panicked. So even if you are very daunted at that time, think of yourself as a duck.
Wow.
Is there any tips, like just some steady, deep breathing or anything to calm that down? Or is it just something you do?
Develop, I guess.
You develop that skill of just being calm.
Yeah, I think it is over time, becoming more comfortable with, it's repetition. I reckon it is repetition. So the more exposure that you can get as a student, the better, because before you go into, other times when you're no longer a student. So when you're a student, you have that safety net where you have someone under your guidance. But repetition, the more you do it, the better you sort of get at it, I reckon.
And it's also moving probably slower than you kind of feel like you want to a lot. I mean, I've never seen a paramedic run into a situation.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And sometimes it's
So
painful.
true.
It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Don't you realise what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
But they are setting the scene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And you're going through all your protocols in your head.
Yeah.
You're being the duck, as we say. And if it takes you 10 seconds longer to do a certain process, but you're calm and you can think straight, then you're probably going to make better judgment calls and decisions and see those little things that you need to take note of.
It's exactly right. So yeah, if you're taking your time and taking those couple of seconds, like you're saying, your ability to think is a lot clearer, and often you might then choose the more correct pathway. On a treatment sort of
better judgments,
protocol that you're going to go down by taking those couple of extra seconds, rather than running in. And because when we've got a lot of adrenaline going on in our system, it's very hard to think. Something's new, a new environment, for instance, it's very hard to take that in and whereas for you guys, certain environments that you're used to, or anyone, there are environments they're used to, it's nothing, but those new environments. So be aware that when you first start out on events and things like that, just, come early and take that time to talk about certain jobs, talk about things you want to learn, and then when you do get a casualty, take your time, think about your body systems. So, if they're struggling to breathe, think about that respiratory status assessment. If they're bleeding, think about that perfusion status assessment. So check that pulse, have a look at their color. Don't go off numbers of what's on a blood pressure cuff or what's on a SATS probe, because if that person's sitting in front of you talking full sentences and is completely fine, then maybe that number on that monitor is incorrect. So bring it back to the actual person as well when you're treating them.
Yeah. Wow. So would you have any other maybe recommendations, or just something to say to students or people even considering a career in paramedicine, emergency healthcare in general?
Yeah. If you're a like-minded individual, if you enjoy variety, if you like a role that can take you down lots of different pathways, if you enjoy the body, like if you enjoy learning about the body, helping people, then these are all things that a paramedic sort of can provide. That sort of really have a think about whether that's something that you really enjoy. Like if you watch those shows on TV, and obviously now it's front of mind. People are seeing that, and I've been in a lot of. It
seems glamorous, though, sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah, but do remember that it's not all like that. It's probably 5% of what we actually do go to.
Which is why you really have to be passionate about this. It's not something you want to make sure this is really what you're passionate about, because then you'll kind of hang around. You'll be patient waiting for the patient. Yeah.
And is there anything else that you kind of wish somebody had told you way back when you started the journey?
That's an interesting one.
Maybe a bit of perspective or anything you haven't touched on already.
I suppose the emotional side of things that can come up every now and then, like your jobs that sort of affect me more is when I can relate to them. So having a mentor sort of talk to me about that, like now, like I vividly remember jobs where there was emotion attached to that job. So a person that's in cardiac arrest and then somebody yelling in your ear, you got to save them. They've all got, all that sort of things. So, and then if that outcome's not great, it takes time to work through that. And if I had any knowledge, I wish someone would have told me back then to talk about it. So the best thing to do is just to talk about it as much as you can. I still get cases now that affect me, and I talk about it with my colleagues, and I work through it that way. And I find that is a very important step into sort of, working through it.
Yeah, because that, I guess, would be one of the highest risk aspects often, is that mental toll that this kind of career takes. And it's great that they're encouraging that, to talk through this stuff. It's not just just get on with the job.
Yeah.
It's like, hang on, no, if you want a career of longevity in this industry, you need to get through that in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And the average lifespan for a paramedic is 7 years, I think it is, something like that. It might even be
Career
less.
span?
Career span. Sorry,
Great.
not lifespan. Career span. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so
the average career span is
be a
7 years.
paramedic.
Yeah, don't choose it. Yeah, the average career span is 7 years, and that's probably why, because, or a lot of people might use it as stepping stone as well and go on to medicine.
Yes.
Or, other aspects in the health industry. So, but yeah.
And in one sense, not to deter people from this incredible career opportunity that's before them, as we've discussed, it's so varied and there's so many opportunities. But I think it is important. This is a job for people that are prepared to walk into the toughest of situations and to really think about, is this what I really want to do? And it's got all the perks of the unpredictability. It's not the boring 9 to 5, but it's a frontline in the action job at times, and I think that's it's exciting being a part. We've really appreciated you being a part of the college, helping to kind of nudge these students off into that dream of theirs. That career that they've worked so hard for. It is phenomenal to be able to have a great partnership with you in that sense. So,
it goes both ways. We love getting the students come on board and seeing how eager they are and keen. I see aspects of myself back when I first started, so about how eager and keen the students are.
Yeah. Well, we're hoping all the best for you and Mr. Paramedic. Is there anything in particular that you've got on the horizon that's coming up? Any new or exciting things happening for you aside from getting your nappy changing skills back on deck?
Do you need any tips?
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually quite interesting to go back and relearn the wrapping side of things.
The swaddling.
I've forgotten about the swaddling.
Yeah, the swaddling.
Goodness me.
So I'll be doing lots of swaddling, I reckon, in the next few months.
Yeah.
No, but in regards to business side of things, just continuing to adapt with the current environment. Running remote courses for now in places that do have those restrictions that we normally would service face to face.
Yeah.
Continuing on with events.
Providing the equipment that you've got.
Yeah, and we've just actually signed on with the Seahawks. So that's locally. So we sponsor the Seahawks. So if any of the students need to get their hours up and enjoy basketball, so we service them each weekend. So that might be a good opportunity if any of the students are into basketball.
Yeah, my kids love it. They train at the local leisure centre here every Saturday.
Yeah, it's a good sport.
It's a great sport.
Okay, great, mate. Congratulations. And thanks for coming in today. It's really inspiring to hear your influence on a number of different aspects in the industry. You're a paramedic yourself, obviously saving lives on the front line, right? As our tagline is.
Yeah, we go.
Great tagline.
But you're also changing lives. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. But you're also a part of preparing this next generation of paramedics, professionals in emergency healthcare, and training up the mums, dads, layperson, kids in the basic life-saving skills of first aid and the basics of rolling people in recovery position, all this sort of stuff, and getting the equipment out there to the places where they're most likely to need it. It's awesome, mate. Your influence, you might think you're just going and just doing what you need to do.
Yep.
But
and now
your
you're
influence
a
and
podcaster.
impact. Exactly. Now you're a podcaster, mate.
Yes.
The world is your oyster. You're on Changing Lives podcast. It doesn't get better than this. Where can you go from here?
I know. It's all downhill, mate.
But thank you for your impact.
Thanks very much for inviting me to come on. Yeah, as I said at the start there, I'm very honoured, guys, to have been invited on to have a chat with you guys. And life, we only do this life once. So make an impact while you're here and follow your passion.
Yeah. And lastly, where can they find you? Do you have a website? Are you on social media?
Yeah. So both of those. So if you just Google search Mr. Paramedic, you'll find it, the website. And then there's also career opportunities for those that have finished their hours. A lot of students stay on board casually, and our medics are paid to go and do events as well. So there's an avenue in there for some casual work once they've done their clinical placement hours.
Fantastic. Oh,
great, mate. Thanks again.
Thank you.
And all the best, and we hope to stay in touch.
See you later, mate.
Thank you.